He was very critical, first of all, of himself, but also extremely critical of me. And I describe in the book one sort of semi-amusing scene where we're en route to have dinner with Prince Charles and Princess Diana. And I frankly thought I looked like $1,000,000. I'd spent all afternoon getting dressed, and I had on this black velvet strapless dress. And in the car on the way to this dinner here in Washington, D.C., Peter looked at me with that kind of quizzical killer look of his and said, "Are you sure you want to wear that?"
Oh, no.
And there went my whole self-confidence, like air out of a balloon. And I was seated next to Prince Charles, and I spent all night fussing with the top of my dress to make sure I wasn't offending His Royal Highness.
Why did you go to Paris after Richard's death? What were you looking for there?
Escape. I was looking to get away. I found that I couldn't get on with my life. And Paris was a place where he and I lived our best times. Even in the 2 years that he was working for President Obama in Afghanistan, we would meet in Paris. And that was our kind of R&R place. But long before that, Paris was sort of the city where I became who I am. As a teenager, I went there and studied at the Sorbonne and spoke good French because I had learned French along with Hungarian in my Budapest childhood. And then Paris is where Peter and I had our romance. So I describe my different lives in Paris, different in 1968 when I was a student, and then got caught up in the student uprising there, which was a very serious business and kind of freaked me out because it was my second revolution. Because as a little girl, I had witnessed the very bloody uprising in Budapest. And so then I left Paris in fear and in haste in '68 as a student, and then had this amazing romantic time there with Peter, and then it's really where Richard and I got together. So I was looking for escape after terrible shock, after terrible grief following Richard's death, but I also wanted to reconnect to the me that was before Richard and before Peter, and the me that seemed kind of lost over the years. And I think I've done that. Paris is a place of such unbelievable beauty and resonance. I think beauty calms the soul. And also, I didn't have quite as many reminders of Richard, because Richard and I didn't have a daily life in Paris the way in New York, every tree reminds me of our daily life. And so in Paris, I have found healing and also reconnection with the former me.
The memoir we're discussing is called Paris, A Love Story. Kadi Martin is the author of 8 books. She's an award-winning former NPR and ABC News correspondent, and she was married to the late diplomat Richard Holbrooke. You wrote this about your time in Paris, quote, "Grief imposes its own rhythms. My feelings of loss and sadness collide with an appetite for life I've never felt since I was a girl here in 1968. An appetite for life?
This may sound strange, but when you've experienced the kind of shock that I did with Richard's entirely unexpected death, you realize how elusive life is, and that you basically cannot count on anything. So forget future planning. This is it right now. This is it. This is your life. This is my life, and we might as well just squeeze that lemon for all it's worth, because nothing is guaranteed. And so the irony is that even while I've been grieving, I've been really trying to savor life. It's sometimes not so easy to do that, but I had a letter from the great writer Joan Didion shortly after Richard died. Her book, The Year of Magical Thinking, is a devastating account of her husband's death. And she, in her note that she dropped off at my apartment, she said, "Dear Kati, I woke up this morning and I thought about you, and I thought of all the mornings that you will wake up and think about Richard." And I thought, wow, I mean, that's beautiful, but I don't want to wake up sad every morning for the rest of my life. I've got to get past this. I've got to assimilate this terrible hole in my heart, but live with it and bring Richard along with me, because holy cow, 17 amazing years with this man who, we really lived really in the front line of history. And that part of my life is over, but it is part of me, just as the trauma of my Budapest childhood is part of who I am, and just as my failed, if I have to call it that, my failed marriage to the father of my children, Peter Jennings, that too is who I am. I am all of these things, but I still have other lives to live. And so in a way, my book is the opposite of Joan Didion's book, which is really about grief. My book is not about grief. My book is about the fact that loss finds all of us, but then we have to find our way through it. And sometimes it's pretty hard. I mean, I sound entirely confident that I'm doing this, but of course there are moments, unexpected moments when it, I'm just hit like it's like a body blow with the loss. But this is the human condition.
Have you thought about remarrying?
No. No, it's too soon. It's too soon. I think about living a full life, and I've never been alone until now. I mean, I'm not proud of that, but I went from my family to marriage, 15 years with Peter, 17 with Richard, and that's it. Boom, that's been my life. So, it sounds a little retarded, but I'm having to figure out stuff now that a lot of people figure out in their 20s and 30s, making my way in the world on my own. But on the other hand, I'm not entirely alone. I have wonderful children, and work is so important. I started writing this book almost immediately after Richard's death. It started I kept a journal when I couldn't sleep at night, and that's why I think people who've read it have noted that it feels like you're actually living this drama, and that's because I was writing in real time, and also it's partly based on letters too that I found. I've had to clean out our home of many years because it's too big and too full of ghosts, and in that process I found these amazing letters that between Peter and me and Richard and me, and also letters that I wrote to my parents from Paris.
So, Kati, what do you recommend to others who might be grieving the loss of a loved one?
Well, that there is life after loss. There has to be, and that the best way to honor the people that we love is to bring them along with us, to really assimilate who they are. I mean, I can hear Richard's voice all the time. And he's not telling me, Kati, don't get out of bed, stay home and weep, because I'm not there anymore to fix things for you. He's telling me, girl, get out of here and roll up your sleeves and live, because guess what? You're still alive. And how lucky are you, to be alive on such a beautiful summer day and to be meeting interesting people like you, Mimi. And unexpected things happen if you're open to that, if you're open to living, open to life. So I think this is actually very much a life-affirming book.
I want to end with a quote from your book that I thought was just so beautiful. It's this: "I am loved, therefore I am. That was me. Now who am I? It's not the grand romantic moments that forge a couple. It's the daily, granular sharing of the most trivial details of life that forged our bond. The freedom to share my least worthy thought, knowing that even when we disagreed, He was on my side. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Kati Martin, she's the author of 7 books. This is her 8th. She's an award-winning former NPR and ABC News correspondent, and she was married to the late diplomat Richard Holbrooke. Her memoir is Paris, a love story. It's published by Simon & Schuster. Kati, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.